Hey, so today is April 4th, 2020. Uh, it's exactly 10 years to the day of when I nearly died in Afghanistan. And every year, I use this time to reflect on my life, what I've been doing, and, remember what had happened and, you know, try to use it to motivate me for where I'm going in life. And, for many of you who don't know this, in the military, if you were ever injured or almost died, and we like to call this our live day. All right? It's a day that we have another chance. We nearly died. Every year, it's something that we celebrate, and we see it as our live day because we have another chance at life. And I wanted to make this video because I've never really explained or gone into depth on what happened to me 10 years ago. People who ask me, they know, certain friends and family and stuff. Most of the time I usually give just a broad explanation. But I was hoping that I can express some of my feelings of what happened that day and how I used that to, I guess, push me in to keep moving every day, to keep doing things that I want to do, to keep trying and to not give up on certain things. I feel fear is a big thing that holds people back. Many people don't like to admit fear of things, but the reality is we all fear things, and I feel that death is a big thing that many of us don't talk about. We think about it at times, but we're afraid to think about it because it's something that's unknown. Whether you're religious or not, or whatever it is that you believe, an afterlife, rebirth, or anything, the reality is that it is something scary. Many times people say that they're not afraid of dying. I used to say that in the military, many military people and stuff, especially deployed, you, in a sense, get to a point where you're not afraid of dying because you have to mentally be prepared, knowing that that's something that very well could happen, and that you cannot be too afraid of it because you have a job to do. Now, ultimately, I believe that most people fear it. Those who don't admit it, it's because you might not have ever truly been there and it hasn't came close to happening. Like myself, I'll admit that I used to think that it was something that I didn't care about. Yeah, I've lived, enjoyed my life. I've done a lot of different things. I'd be happy if I died tomorrow. But the reality is, I wouldn't. There's always more that I want to do. I would like to be able to accomplish more. I'd like to be able to help more people and do more things. One day it's going to happen. I don't know when. I want to be as satisfied as I can, knowing that I tried and did as much as I could. But no matter what, I don't think that we'll always be completely ready for it. Certain circumstances, I can understand, but I'm just kind of saying in general. Now, as far as myself and what happened 10 years ago on this day, I was a squad leader with 1st Battalion, 6th Marines in the Marine Corps. We were in Marjah, Afghanistan, and I was on a foot patrol with my squad. And I had taken point. We were going to get a last, was going to call in a last grid point for my platoon, and then we were about to turn around and go back. We were out all morning. It was a long morning for us. And we were in an area at the end there that we knew was a bad area. We had been there 2 weeks prior. There was an IED in the road. They had tried ambushing us after we had set off the IED. Long story short, this was an area that every time we went to, stuff happened. So we kind of were keeping our eyes peeled with stuff. But we were out all day, a little grumpy, tired, hungry. And I had taken point, and we were moving down this area where we had a long set of compound walls to my left. To the right was a wadi, which is like a river. On the other side of the wadi was the road, which we try to stay off the roads, but also try to stay off the pass. But due to the circumstances of where we were and this setup, we kind of had no choice but to kind of take this path down to go on the grid. So as we were moving down, I had gotten in front and we were coming around a bend, and I looked up. I was talking with one of my guys behind me, and we were watching the road, and then I looked forward and I noticed that right there in front of me was an ID set up. It was above the ground. It was, those of you who don't know, there's lots of different types of IEDs, how they set them up. Buried ones, above ground, pressure plates, pull string, there's lots of different stuff. Now this one was kind of set up, I guess the best way to explain it, it's kind of like a cannon, like a miniature cannon, all right? They put anything they want inside there, and it basically will shoot out into the direction that it's pointing. There's bullets, nuts, bolts, metals, bearings, glass, all kinds of stuff that they put in there, and it all shoots out. When I had saw it, I initially froze, and I remember looking back at, well, talking back to Guts, who was behind me. I said, "You see that?" And he said, "Yeah." And we froze for a second. I remember looking, seeing the string coming up from behind it and going over the compound wall, which initially made me think that this is a pull string. Somebody's got to be watching something. But you know, in this situation, every second counts, and you know, it's something that you're not really faced with when it happens. You're just kind of rolling with the punches and trying to make the best decisions as you can. So, you know, my thought was, let's get back as far as we can. I figured that it's probably not a pressure plate. My entire squad was stretched out because we try not to stay close to each other. For God forbid, if an ID went off, it hits as little people as possible. So I told Guts to turn around, start moving back, tell everybody to stop and keep moving. Now we're all spread out, we can't hear each other. I turned around and start moving back. Everybody who's in the further back end of the squad, they're still moving forward. I'm kind of looking back and I'm trying to wave and signal to them to like get back. And I know that like we're running out of time. And I start yelling, I said, turn around, get back. And as I was trying to push them and go back, they had detonated the IED. At this point, I don't remember from the time the IED was set to me going to the ground. That's a blank in my mind. But everything else, I vividly remember. I was completely conscious for it all. The IED had blown me back, I'm assuming pretty far. Half my body was pretty much into the wadi. The only thing I remember was opening my eyes, looking down at the dirt. There was dust everywhere. You can hear my squad. People yelling, trying to ask if everybody's okay, what, you know, if anybody was hit. There was obviously a lot of confusion. For myself, I remember just looking down, and in my head, I remember I kept talking in my head a lot, and I kept thinking, what the fuck just happened? Like, what had just happened? I obviously had a concussion, and my body was in shock. I'm laying down, and I'm trying to put together in my head what's going on. So I remember I'm just kind of laying there. I can hear everybody yelling and stuff, and then I hear one of my guys coming up to me. He came up behind me and kind of got over top of me. Like I felt like grab my flak, and he's yelling at me, and he's asking, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I remember thinking I wanted to say something, but for some reason I couldn't get words out of my mouth. You know, I'm assuming it's because my body was in shock, and I couldn't say anything. But in my head, I'm still kind of being like, "What the fuck's going on? Like, what just happened?" It didn't all kind of process yet. And then I remember him saying, "Fuck, he's bleeding bad," and then he started yelling for the medic. And that was when I remember it all processed into my head, and I realized, shit, I was just hit. And then I remember he had rolled me over. That was when he had rolled me over. I started feeling pain, and everything started coming together, realizing like we were just hit with an IED. At this point, I remember looking down, and I had a tourniquet, I remember, up on my upper left side of my flak. I remember I tried lifting my arm to try to reach for it because I knew It said I'm bleeding bad and stuff. I figured I probably need a tourniquet. I went to go reach up, and my right arm, I remember I can only move it from my shoulder, but it fell straight down. And I remember looking down thinking, what the fuck was that? And I looked down and I can see I had no movement from my elbow down of my right arm, and my forearm was split open, and I could see the bone and it bleeding. And I remember just lifting my head up thinking, great. Like, I couldn't move a finger, I couldn't move anything, and just knowing that like that arm was pretty much fucked. I remember I tried then lifting my left arm to see if I can try to grab it. Same thing, that was hit through my tricep and it came out my bicep, and I could barely move my fingers. It was movable, but I knew it was not working right. It wasn't enough for me to do anything. I then remember trying to look down as he was trying to get tourniquets onto me and thinking, please, can I like move my legs or something? And I remember noticing my thighs moving slightly. And that was a sign of relief for me, where I thought, okay, I'm not paralyzed, but there's something moving. But that was all that I could do. The only thing I was able to do was barely like slightly move my thighs. From that, I couldn't do anything else. I remember at that time he had put tourniquets on my left leg, on my right arm, and my guys were frantically rushing to try to get me to safety so that they can work on me, because obviously I was extremely messed up. They had come over, tried picking me up, but unfortunately I was the biggest person in our squad, and when you add on weight, ammo, weapons, gear, water, food, all of that, and then dead weight, it's extremely hard to pick somebody up. And right now we were running out of time to try to get as quickly to safety as we can. God forbid if we were to get ambushed or anything like that. So I remember Prempeh had come up, he had grabbed me and started dragging me, and they had pulled me to a nearby mosque. When we got to that mosque, everybody started working on me. And you know, next thing I know, they're ripping cutting all my clothes off, boots, everything. And I remember laying there just thinking, what the fuck? The entire time I could just hear him. He's hit here, he's hit here, he's hit here. All the way to both feet, ankles, everything. Literally every limb of my body was hit at least twice, through and through. And I remember the hardest part of all of it was staying awake. I had gotten the worst cotton mouth, I lost a lot of blood, and my first team leader, he was trying to call in for the medevac. I know our platoon, they had radioed back, they had learned. I know one of the squads, first squad that came out to come support and try to help, but they were pretty far away. And it was literally just us and our squad. And they're calling in for a helicopter to come. For me, I don't even know the time frame of this. Like, it felt like forever. I don't know if it was 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, however long from the time that that happened to the time that the helicopter got there and left, but for me it felt like a lifetime. And it's so hard to explain that feeling when you lay there helpless and you can't do anything. I couldn't do anything. None of my limbs worked. Here I am, squad leader. I'm in charge of these guys, and my biggest thing is their safety on this deployment. I want to make sure that they got home safe, that I didn't lose anybody, everything was good. And now I am the one who's here, fucked up, and they're trying to save my life. And there's nothing that I could do except try to stay awake. I remember learning that when you lose a lot of blood, when you're coming close to death, that if you feel like you're going to fall asleep, that is your body slowly kind of letting go, and that you should really fight as hard as you can to stay awake. And I remember that was so hard. I was so tired, and I wanted to just close my eyes, and I wanted to just hope that this could just pass by. But I was so scared that if I closed my eyes and actually let myself go to sleep, that I would never open them again. I remember the cotton mouth. I was so thirsty, remember they kept giving me water. I kept asking them to give me water, and it was, it's something that I could never, ever forget. And the feeling is always there when I think about it. But I'm so grateful for those guys that day, what they did, and how they kept me alive until that helicopter finally got there. When the helicopter finally arrived, they were able to load me up, and that was kind of like a sense of relief. Because here we are in the middle of nowhere. It's not like in America you can get a hospital, an ambulance or something to come. Like you don't know. You don't know. And we're in a third world country. It's not that simple. And also not knowing what was wrong with me. I know my medic couldn't give me morphine because I was hitting my torso. I was afraid that my lung might have been hit, and basically due to just making sure that it doesn't make anything worse, I wasn't given any morphine. So on top of this entire thing, I was feeling straight up pain and feeling everything. I never got morphine until I got to the hospital. The helicopter had arrived, they picked me up, they put me in there. They had great people working on there. They got me in a stretcher. They tried hooking me up to an IV. They couldn't get an IV anywhere on me. I lost so much blood. There was no veins anywhere. And with that, they couldn't give any morphine. And they tried, I remember they tried spraying something up my nose. I don't know, I'd never taken pain meds or anything in my entire life at this point. So there was like, did it work? Do you feel anything? I was like, I don't fucking know. Like, nothing was working at this point. And there was just pain everywhere. I had gotten to the hospital and they got me in to a room. I remember all the doctors, there must have been like 15 or 20, I felt like, all around me. I was laying there naked, everybody's grabbing limbs, working on me, doing all kinds of stuff. And one of the doctors had said, like, hey, you got any morphine? I said, no. And he's like, they had stuck an IV in my hand, but it didn't work. And the doctor had looked and he said, this IV is not even in your vein. It's not doing anything. So he pulled it out and he said, you don't have any veins anywhere. You might have a stick in your neck. And I said, dude, I don't care what you do at this point. And I remember he stuck me in my left vein in my neck and instantly gave me a thing of morphine. And at that point, I remember being like, oh shit, okay, yeah, I feel that. Like, that hit me. And it was kind of like a sense of relief. I felt a little bit more comfortable, and it was still a while before they can put me under. There was a lot that they had to do. I think they had to do x-rays and some other things. But after a while, they had said, okay, we're gonna put you under. And I remember waking up, well, I remember them saying you can put me under, and then I looked over and I said, well, when are you gonna put me under? And I remember the doctor said, you already were. And I looked down and I was like a mummy wrapped from my neck all the way to my feet, literally completely wrapped up. And, you know, that's what happened. There's a lot more from there, you know, that was just the thing leading up. And, you know, when I woke up after that first surgery, I had asked the doctor, I said, you know, what happened? Like, what's wrong with me? And I remember this lady, she was at the end, she's looking, and she said, you know, I had never seen someone get hit as many times as you did, and you didn't break one bone. So I said, okay, well, why can't I move then? And she said, well, unfortunately, you have a lot of nerve damage. You have some severed nerves, and they were hit pretty bad, so that's why you can't move a lot of your limbs. She said, it's gonna take time, you know, and more surgeries and stuff and rehab, but basically they're gonna do the best they can and see what happens. So from there, I think I went through a couple more surgeries in Afghanistan. They flew me to Germany. I had one or two there. And then I'd been flown to America. I was finally see my family. And went through more surgery, another surgery. They were able to take I had wound vets in my arms and butt cheek. I was hit everywhere. And after being in Bethesda, Maryland, I was able to start rehab. They sent me home to Connecticut, and I think I spent like 2 months there just going through. I couldn't drive or anything. Parents had to bring me. And I used to walk with a cane. I had to start walking again. My right arm was paralyzed. It was a lot to deal with that year. You know, from that incident, I was hit in over a dozen places in my body, at least twice in every limb. Feet, ankle, calves, thighs, butt, lower back, both arms, in and out, through, everywhere. And it took a good year for me to fully adjust to things. Nerve damage it's a fucking pain. For those of you who have it, you know, it's hard to get used to. Normally, I'd say after a year, you're used to what it's like. That now becomes your normal, what that feels like. It's difficult, but it's manageable. I feel it is. With this story, you know, it's been 10 years, and I'd just like to say, I use that thought, the incident, the fear, as fuel for things that I do. That could have been the end for me. Nobody, I don't feel, will ever be ready for that. You know, some people have accidents and incidents where they die, and it's something that's instant. I think it's extremely difficult when it's slow and you are there not knowing what's going to happen, if you're gonna bleed out and die, and it's scary. But I use that so much in my life as fuel to do the things that I want to do. I think about when that may happen again. It could be any time. You know, we see people, celebrities, sports people, or family members, when they die. It's a reminder. We think about every day can be your last. Oh, make sure that you guys are doing things, this, that, right? Normally that's a temporary thing. After a week or two, whatever, we tend to forget. We go back into our everyday stuff. People are very scared lots of times, in my opinion, to do things, to take chances and stuff because of the unknown and what's going to happen. The way that I see things is that day, I think how to explain this. That day could have been the end for me. I never had any flashes before my eyes. I didn't see a light, I didn't hear anything. I wasn't thinking of anything out of the ordinary. I was thinking of the there and now, what I was going through, what was happening. I didn't think that there might have been something that I didn't get to accomplish or anything like that. None of that went through my mind. You know, you hear a lot of people who talk about how they experienced some crazy thing when they were in a near-death experience. I don't know if that's true. Maybe some people thought they felt something or whatever. I didn't. There was nothing. I tend to think a lot of times is, what if there is nothing? And this is a scary thing to think about. What if there is nothing? What if that was it? And if it went the other way, the lights are out and everything was over. You can't think. You're not reflecting on anything. You don't see anything. Like, your life is done. That is a scary thing to think about. I think about this so much. And I'm not saying this in some sense of, I don't believe in religion or whatever, or anything like that. I'm not saying it in that. Truthfully, I don't know what I believe, but what I'm saying is the thought that there could be nothing, okay? So for those of you who are very religious or believe in your own certain things, I'm not taking anything away from that. I'm not saying anything against that. I'm just saying, what if there was nothing? What didn't I do in my life because I was afraid of being judged or fearful because of the outcome or something might not go right? Lots of times we fear things because of how we might be judged in a certain way from other people or ourselves. Since this incident 10 years ago, I have used that as fuel for a lot of the things that I've done. When I'm nervous or scared to do something, I always think to myself, what does it matter later on? Does it really matter? Why am I nervous, fearful to go and do something? Whether it's talking in front of people, giving a speech, those are things that a lot of people, you get the jitters, you get nervous. I do all the time. You wonder, are you going to screw up? Are you going to stutter? Are you going to blank? Are you going to forget what you're saying? Giving presentations, going out for jobs. Let's say it's, some sort of job where you have a PT standard. You're afraid that you're not ready, so you're not going to sign up for it or whatever. What does it matter? Do it. Force yourself to be ready. Force yourself. And if you fail, whatever, then you didn't do it. It's on you. You should have been ready, but you weren't. But why do we get nervous and scared for things? Most of the time it's because we're afraid of judgment. And it's that fear that holds us from doing something. So many times when I'm nervous the night before, if I have something big going on, interviews, giving a speech, doing something, I'm just thinking of lots of different things that I've done where I would get really, really nervous the night before and I start thinking, man, am I going to fuck up? Am I ready for this? Whatever. I would always think to myself, what does it matter? Why are you scared? Just go and do it. So what if you screw up? So what? You make a joke of yourself, you fuck up, you do something dumb. People don't remember that stuff. They don't. Things last temporarily nowadays. And after that, it's you forget about it. Most people can't remember shit that happens a year later. You make a fool of yourself, you do something stupid, a year later, you don't even remember. You go out for things, maybe that failed, okay, go back for it. There's so much that I think about that I want to do and I want to accomplish. And I failed so many things. But the reason why I made so many things is because I kept going. I kept doing it and I wanted it and eventually it worked. Sometimes things don't. Sometimes things aren't fair. Sometimes you get fucked. But that doesn't mean that you give up on everything. There is so much that we can accomplish in this world that I wish I can open people's perspective on how much you have to take advantage of the life that we have, the time that we have. And no, you don't have to have gone through some experience that I've gone through. You don't, because truth be told, the way I think and I see things, I thought that long before this. And it's because of the way that I kind of hardened my mind and thought about things and built that perspective, which is what helped me to grow past what happened to me even quicker. I didn't get stuck in a rut. I sure did, and I have many times in my life, and I still do, where we all struggle. You get in ruts, you have problems. It's hard to push through things. That is something that will always be there. It will always be there. What people have to understand is that life will never get to a point where it's like you made it. Now you can relax and everything's gonna be smooth sailing. You have to understand that it's not gonna be like that. You have to always push to do things. You have to be ready and understand that failing is gonna be there, fear is gonna be there, and you can't give up on what you want to do. You keep pushing, you keep doing things. It's just, I think about this, especially every year when this day comes around, and how much I really want to open people's perspective, show people, help them, get them to see things differently, understand that this life is so short. And it's what I do and think about a lot. I'll lay in bed at night, sometimes it keeps me up all night. My heart will be pounding because I think, Why haven't I done this? What am I afraid of? We like to hide behind fear and convince others that we're not afraid of something or whatever. Death is always going to be there for us. This is one thing that I look and I use that as fuel. It's always going to be there. None of us know when our time is up. We don't. None of us. Think about that all the time. When you're nervous about doing something, if you're nervous about fucking up or embarrassing yourself, I always think to myself, I'm going to die one day. Think anyone's going to care after that? Think about anybody in your family who lived 50 years ago, 100 years ago. If they did something so embarrassing or screwed up or fucked up so bad, does anybody remember that? Probably not. So why are you scared to do things? That's just the way that I see things. You know, I've always looked at it that way. What happened to me helps me look at it even more. And I would like to show other people and have you see that perspective a little bit differently. Be truthful to yourself. We can convince other people a million things, tell them all this and that. Yeah, we're fine. No, I don't care. I gave up on this, or I didn't want to do that, whatever. But when you're in that raw moment, when you're thinking yourself, you're at home, or you're looking in the mirror, you're judging yourself, you can't hide that from yourself. You can never hide those things from yourself. You know, there's a lot more that I want to do. And every year that this date comes around, it just reminds me that there's so much more that I want to do in this world. And as long as you're here breathing, you still got plenty of time. I don't care how old you are. I don't care what disabilities you have, anything, you still have time. I hope this helps some people. And I'm sorry this went a lot longer than I thought. I know many people probably won't listen all the way through this, but I just wanted to post this out there, kind of open up, express myself, because you know what? If I embarrass myself, who cares? If it seems dumb, doesn't matter, because in 50 to 100 years, nobody's gonna ever know or remember this. So be yourself, be true to yourself, and do what you want. Think about what you want to do with this life, where you are, and if you're happy. That's what the biggest thing should come down to, is are you really happy? So, hope this helps you guys, and thanks for listening if you made it this far. All right, take care, guys.